بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره وشيعته اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Tonight we have a discussion which is very interesting, especially for the people whose mother tongue is not Arabic. But even for those whose mother tongue is Arabic, still this is very relevant, because sometimes even native people, they don't necessarily speak their own language in a eloquent and grammatically correct way. They can make lots of mistakes also, unless they are really educated and they are very much trained. So the question is, what happens if in our du'as we make mistakes by not pronouncing properly or not observing proper i'rab? As you know, in Arabic we have raf and nasb, jar for those which are nouns depending on their situation. So if someone makes mistakes, is this going to affect the dua? Is this going to cause dua not being accepted by Allah? Or for example, if this mistaken version has another meaning, for example, sometime maybe someone, inshallah we will have example. For example, instead of saying ashhadu annaka qutilta mazluman, he says ashhadu annaka qatalta. Instead of saying you were killed unjustly, he says you killed it unjustly, because qatalta means you killed, qutilta means you were killed. So is this going to cause problem? Sometimes even dua can become a curse. If you don't know the language, you can make a big mistake sometimes. Is this going to lead to Allah doing something opposite to what this person wanted in his heart, because his language indicated this new meaning? So this is the discussion that we have tonight. It's rather very detailed and a scholarly discussion, in few pages, but I try to complete it tonight, so that inshallah then we can next week address another important issue, inshallah. This discussion, of course, is about dua in general. When it comes to salat and recitation, qira'ah in salat, whether it is recitation of Surah al-Hamd or Surah Qul Huwallahu, the second surah, or the azkar of ruku, sujood, tashahhud, salam, that is a fiqhi discussion that everyone has to follow his marja. This is a scholarly discussion, but it's about general dua. Maybe here we say it's okay, but in salat in particular, maybe it's different. So you have to refer to your marja. But this gives you a general scholarly attitude to this topic. Before we go into the main argument, the late Ibn Fahd al-Hilli mentions two hadith that suggest or seem to suggest that if what you say is grammatically incorrect, your dua would not be accepted, or you must say it in correct way. But then we will see what's the real interpretation, what was meant by these two. فَإِنْ قُلْتُ قد ورد عن أبي جعفر الجواد عليه السلام. If you say that it has been received from Imam Jawad, whose kunya is Abu Ja'far, أنه قال ما استوى رجل في حسب ودين قط إلا كان أفضلهما عند الله عز وجل أعدبهما. No two persons have been equal in hasab wa deen, in social status, in their faith. So it means if they are equal, because if someone, for example, has better iman, if someone has better appreciation by community, etc., that's different. But two people who are equal, then the better one in the sight of Allah is the one who is adab, who has more adab. Adab is a very important concept. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam said, La miratha kal adab. There is no legacy like adab. Nothing better than adab to leave for your children. Adab means politeness, courtesy. It's a very important concept. Many years ago, I asked one of our sisters, who was originally actually from India and now lives in the US, to do her thesis on adab, and I was the supervisor also. Also, I gave a series of lectures, maybe 10 lectures or more, about adab in one month of Ramadan. It's available in English. It's a very important concept, adab. So, if two people are equal in their iman and hasab, which you can say like social status, hasab, and then we have nasab, which is your family ties, but hasab is social. Unless the one who is more mu'addab, more polite, more disciplined, better akhlaq, better manners, that would be afdalahuma indallah. That would be the one who is closer, is better in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then narrator says, قُلْتُ جُعِلْتُ فِدَاكَ. May I be your ransom. قَدْ عَلِمْتُ فَضْلَهُ عِنْدَ النَّاسِ فِي النَّادِي وَالْمَجَالِسِ فَمَا فَضْلُهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَ. He says, I know that someone who has better adab in the opinion of nas, people in their gathering. Nadi means also majlis. In modern Arabic, nadi also means club. Means club. Those who are familiar with Dubai, they know there is Iranian club, and Nad al-Irani from before revolution. There is Nad al-Irani. So nadi means majlis. Also, Darun Nadwa, there was a plot, conspiracy made by Quraysh to kill Rasulullah, and Shaitan appeared and gave them advice that, instead of one or two people, there should be people from different tribes, so that all of them are together, and therefore the family of the Prophet cannot do anything when from every tribe there was someone. That was Darun Nadwa. Nadwa and Nadif are from the same root. So he says, I know that people in their gathering, their majalis, they give real appreciation more to someone who has better manners, etiquette, akhlaq, adab. But فَمَا فَضْلُهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَ. But what is its privilege, its merit in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Then Imam explained, of course this is one aspect of adab. بقراءة القرآن كما أنزل. One aspect of adab is to recite the Quran as it was revealed. This is the word of God. You have to be careful about how to read it. Don't make mistakes. You have to be very careful. وَدُعَاؤُهُ Allah Azza wa Jal min haythu la yalhan. And also when he wants to make dua. Dua is ascending, Quran is descending. Yeah? Kalam sa'id wa kalam nazil. Quran is nazil, means coming down to us. Dua is coming from us and going high, ascending. So dua also should be without lahan. Lahan here means to make mistake. وَذَلِكَ. This is the major part of this hadith that needs interpretation. وَذَلِكَ أَنَّ الدُّعَاءَ الْمَلْحُونَ لَا يَصْعَدْ إِلَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Dua which is said in a mistaken way, linguistically it's mistaken, either pronunciation or grammar, etc. لا يصعد إلى الله عز وجل. It doesn't go high towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you remember, last session we talked about this. At the end of the last session, he said, هذا هو معنى الدعاء الملحون الذي لا يقبله الله. We said, it means that something which is not what you wanted. But apparently, if you just read this hadith, it may suggest that if you make mistake in your du'as, grammatical, or I don't know, morphological way, it's not going to be rising towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الدعاء الملحون لا يصعد إلى الله عز وجل. But inshallah we will interpret what it means. It's not as you may understand in the first sight. وَيَقْرُبُ مِنْهُ قَوْلُ الصَّادِقِ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ. This was from Imam Jawad alayhi salam. It's similar, it's close to this, what is said by Imam Sadiq or attributed to Imam Sadiq. نَحْنُ قَوْمٌ فُصَحَاء إِذَا رَوَيْتُمْ عَنَّا فَأَعْرِبُوهَا. We are people who are fasih. For us, fasaha is very important. We try to be saying everything correctly. We are very much appreciating eloquence and fasaha. When you narrate something from us, فَأَعْرِبُوهَا. I'rab means to express, means express it with correct pronunciation, correct grammatical rules, etc. Everything. We say some, but if you make mistake, people think that we have said things in the wrong way. You have to be careful. خب فإن كان المراد من هذين الحديثين ما دل عليه ظاهرهما. If what is meant by these two hadiths is what the apparent meaning is suggesting, then we have problem with this. We don't think when you make mistake, dua would not be accepted. فكثيرا ما نرى من إجابة الدعوات غير المعربات وكثيرا ما نشاهد من أهل الصلاح والورع ومن يرجى إجابة دعائهم لا يعرفون شيئا من النحو. He says, we have been noticing, we have been seeing that many times du'as which are not properly said according to Arabic rules are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even, of course, Ibn Fat himself is, Arabic speaking, but he knows that there are people, who are not educated, they make mistakes, and also non-Arabs. And he says also many times we see that even people of salah and wara, people who have righteousness and taqwa, to the extent that yurja ijabatu du'a'ahim. These are the people that it's hoped that whenever they call, Allah will answer. They are such a nice people, pious people, muttaqeen. لا يعرفون شيئا من النحو. They don't know that much about it. Even some of ulama, some of clerics who are not very much, trained or very much, remembering and refreshing their memories, they can make mistakes when they read the Arabic text. It's not that everyone who has learned Arabic is reading correctly. Even Arabs people, many times when I listen to the news in Arabic or, people who are interviewed, I can see they make mistakes. Because sometimes when you are not native and you have been trained, maybe you can notice better because you are more sensitive about the language. But some of them are very fluent, very eloquent. So the same way that maybe, many Iranians make mistake even in Farsi. This is why in our schools we have to learn Farsi grammar, or in English, they have to learn English. So don't be surprised that even native people may make mistakes. But he says we know that there are people that they make mistakes in expressions, but they are so good that we expect their du'as are accepted. We ask them to pray for us, for example, etc. Plus, وَإِذًا إِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ دُعَاؤُهُ مَسْمُوعًا فَلَا فَائِدَةَ. If you say that these du'as which are malhoon are not masmu', Allah doesn't listen to them, it means doesn't pay attention to them, doesn't answer to them, فَلَا فَائِدَةَ فِيهِ, then there is no benefit. فَلَا يَكُونُ مَأْمُورًا بِهِ. Therefore then these are not things that we are commanded to do. So dua is not then asked by Allah to bring if it is mistaken, because it has no benefit, because we said it's not heard. Then it means that the only people that should make dua are Huzzaqun Nuhat. Nuhat are the people who are Nahwi, means expert in Arabic syntax. Haziq means someone who is very capable, very skillful. So then we should say only those who are experts of Arabic syntax, they should make dua, not other people. Even Nahwi أيضا ربما يلحن في بعض الأدعية. Even those who are very good in Nahw, they have specialized in Nahw, sometimes they make mistakes, because sometimes du'as are not mentioned, especially early text. It was like this. Alhamdulillah, recently our ulama made great efforts to put i'rab, to make everything clear. In the past there was no i'rab, and earlier there was no even dots, whether it is ba or ta or tha. They should themselves understand from the context. So even Nahwi can make mistake. Plus, if you give so much of attention to recitation correctly, then you may lose your presence of heart. This is also another issue. وَاشْتِغَالُ حَالَةَ الدُّعَاءِ بِالْخُشُوعِ وَالتَّوَجُّهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. If you want to pay attention to dua, then you cannot bring all the rules to your mind. Of course, those who are very well trained and practiced, they don't need to bring the rules. Automatically they read correctly. But at the beginning, at least for some years, it's like this. But he said all these things are not acceptable. To say you have to be only nahwi to make dua, and you have to be paying attention to all the rules, so that you don't make a mistake. He says no. كل هذه الأمور باطلة. He said this is not what we observe in the world, and this is also not we have received in the hadith of Ahlul Bayt. Actually, this is the opposite. ضد المعلوم من أخبارهم عليهم السلام ووصاياهم. Their advices, their hadiths are different. And Ahlul Bayt have talked about conditions of dua. They have talked about everything that people need. But we never see that they say i'rab and knowing nahv is a condition. So you may say these two. Say, oh, no, these two, we have to see what they mean. But never, we have something that clearly says, you have to learn Arabic syntax, Arabic grammar, etc., so that your dua can be accepted. So, فَاعْلَمْ أَيَّدَكَ اللَّهُ أَنَّهُ لَمَّا كَانَ الْوَاقِعُ خِلَافَ مَا دَلَّ عَلَيْهِ ظَاهِرُ الْخَبَرَيْنِ. Because what is the reality is different from the apparent meaning of these two hadiths. The hadith that we quoted from Imam Jawad alayhi salam and Imam Sadiq. If you take it as ma'na zahiri, we said it's not acceptable. According to Ibn Fahd, it's not acceptable, and we explained. Therefore, scholars try to do ta'wil, to interpret it in a different way. عدل الناس, nas here of course means ulama, إلى تعويلهما. They try to interpret it in a different way. For example, one interesting idea is this. Of course, it's good, makes sense, but this is not what Ibn Fahd himself said. But it makes sense, which is a nice idea. And it's correct, but whether hadith refers to this, that's another issue. Otherwise, it's a correct idea. They say, du'a'ul malhoon. As I said, this idea is correct, but whether hadith about du'a'ul malhoon that Imam Jawad said or Imam Sadiq said that Arabu is referring to this, that's the point. They say, du'a'ul malhoon is dua of someone that makes dua against himself when he was in a bad condition. He was very sad and depressed, or I don't know, upset. He made dua ala nafsihi, against himself. Bima fihi dhararuha. For example, when he sees for example, family or children don't appreciate him, he say, may God take me back to himself. I don't want to be with you anymore. He is now praying for his own death. But does Allah accept this dua? They say no. If someone makes dua against himself, or says, may God, I don't know, curse me if, I do this or because the person was very, depressed or sad or upset or gets very emotional. وَاسْتَشْهَدَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. The one who has said malhoon means this, also try to mention as evidence this ayah. وَلَوْ يُعَجِّلُ اللَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ الشَّرَّ اسْتِعْجَالَهُمْ لِلْخَيْرِ لَقُضِيَ إِلَيْهِمْ أَجَلُهُمْ. We had, I think I refer to this, yes, on page 22 we had this ayah, and I said we will discuss this ayah later. What is the interpretation according to this scholar and people like him? They say, if Allah was going to respond quickly and answer quickly to du'as of people when they ask for something bad for themselves, in the same way that he responds quickly to when they ask for something good, then لَقُضِيَ إِلَيْهِمْ أَجَلُهُمْ, then their ajal would have been decided and they would have died. Meaning that Allah has two policies. When you ask something good quickly, Allah may give you, if it is your maslahah and general maslahah. But if you ask for something which is bad for yourself, Allah is not going to give you that bad thing. Allah would wait, maybe you change your opinion, you change your mind, etc. For example, someone says, رَفَعَنِيَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَيْنَكُمْ. May Allah raise me from among you. It means take me to Himself. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to kill them quickly. بَلْ يُمْهِلُهُمْ حَتَّى يَتُوبُوا. Allah gives them muhla till they repent. Allah gives them some chance. Maybe they change their idea. Some people said Du'a al-malhoon is when you make dua. This was about someone who makes dua against himself because he's upset or whatever. Some people said when you make dua against your loved ones. For example, you are tired of your children. This last one was tired of himself, upset with himself, or upset with a situation and made dua against himself. This one makes dua against his children, for example, against his, I don't know, na'udhu parents, etc. This also is not going to be accepted. Although it's better not to do it because there's a risk. Sometimes it may work, if you keep, cursing, your children, if you are angry with them. You shouldn't make this. But we have that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please don't accept dua of someone who makes dua against his loved one. Allah yastajib du'a muhibbin ala habibihi. If the lover makes dua against his beloved, please don't accept it. A child makes dua against his sibling, maybe, or parents against children, etc. Allah is not going to accept. So dua malhoon, which is not accepted, they say means dua against your loved one. Some other people said dua malhoon is the one that la yakunu jami'an li shara'itihi, doesn't have the condition, doesn't meet the conditions of dua. So these are three alternative interpretations. So one is al-ma'na al-zahiri, which means dua with mistake in grammar, pronunciation is not accepted. There are three alternative interpretations, but the fifth is the opinion of Ibn Fahd. Ibn Fahd rahmatullah says al-kullu bima'zalin an al-tahqiq. He says all these three opinions are away from tahqiq. Tahqiq means to do research to reach the haqiqah, to the truth. Why? He says because when you read the beginning of that hadith of Imam, for example, Jawad about malhoon, you find that actually it is about nahv. It's about syntax. Why you say dua malhoon means dua against yourself or your loved one, or dua without conditions. It's about nahv. So Imam was praising, or the conversation was about praising syntax, nahv, ilm nahv, and this was said. So malhoon still has to be something which is mistaken in a linguistic way. So what is tahqiq? Look at his way of interpreting. Before I say this, they say that it's reported that I think was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to an old person that in heaven there will be no old people. That person was very, sad. And then Rasulullah said, old people become young. When they go to heaven, they are not old anymore. They will become young and they go to heaven. So it was a kind of mizah, a kind of teaching, education, but in a humorous way. It is said in some books that Rasulullah made this joke. So we say no one who is old goes to heaven, but means that you become young. Ibn Fahd uses something like this. He says, dua which is mistaken is not going to be rising to Allah. So what happens? Dua will be corrected and then rise to Allah. It means Allah has a system of auto-correction. He corrects your dua and then it will rise. He says this is the meaning. Of course, this is for the people that, this is my, of course, footnote on this. For the people who are not, careless and they don't bother, they just, say something. It means someone, for example, who is not Arabic speaker or, is not very fluent. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't improve, your knowledge of Arabic and reading and, you should not be careful. No, make a little effort at least, but don't worry too much. Don't lose your concentration on meanings just by worrying about correct pronunciation, etc., because it will be automatically corrected. He says, al-muradu min qawlihi alayhi salam إن الدعاء الملحون لا يسعد إلى الله عز وجل أي لا يسمعه ملحونا, means Allah doesn't listen to it when it is mistaken. So what does it mean? It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not consider the mistaken words and perhaps mistaken meaning that they can suggest. As I said, sometimes these mistakes can even change the meaning. Sometimes they can be insult, sometimes they can be kufr. Allah doesn't consider it in that way. Allah knows what is in the heart of this person. Or even if he doesn't know Arabic, he says that I am reading Du'a Kumail. Allah knows that he wants to read Du'a Kumail. So considers for him the real meaning which was there. If he says, I want to say the same thing that Amir al-Mu'minin was saying. يجازي عليه جاريا على لحنه or جازيا or جاري مقابلا له بما دل ظاهر لفظه عليه بل يجازي على قصد الإنسان من دعائه. Allah is not going to treat him and reward him or recompense him according to what the term is said. Rather, Allah looks at the meaning and the purpose. What did he mean when he wanted to say this? And then he says, some people, for example, when they are doing ziyarah of Ma'soom alayhi salam, they say, Ashhadu annaka qatalta wa zalamta wa qasabta bi fath awwal al-kalima. I bear witness that you killed, you did zulm, you did qasb, usurped. Rather, they should say qutilta wa zulimta wa ghusibta. So, but they don't know. They don't want to say you killed. They say you are killed. They know, but they say it differently. He says if this dua was going to be taken as said, then it becomes irtidad. This person is losing iman. Even maybe this person, needs to be disciplined. Ta'zir is, kind of punishment that the judge, can do, is lower than hudud. But no scholar has said this. So this means that what would be considered is what this person meant, not what actually said, if it was said in a mistaken way. And then he says, يدل عليه أيضا إجماع الفقهاء أعلى الله تعالى درجاتهم على أن الإنسان أو إنسانا. Our fuqaha mujtahideen, Ibn Fat says they have consensus that if someone does qasf in fiqh, inshallah you should study or you have already studied. Qasf is to say some false accusation and insult to people. Sometimes this qasf has to be punished. For example, accusing someone of adultery, etc. But fuqaha have said, if what this person said in his own urf, his own culture, was not qasf, but for example, the Arab people who heard it or the other people who heard it. For example, someone speaks Farsi, but his Farsi is not good. It's not only Arabic. He didn't mean to insult, but the Persian people, the native people who heard that, they say, he's doing qasf. We say no. Fuqaha say, don't consider what was understood by the people of that language. You should consider what he meant. If it's in own culture, this didn't mean qasf, that's fine. There's no punishment. There's ijma, he says. So, فعلم أن إعراب الألفاظ في الدعاء ليس شرطا في إجابته والإثابة عليه. So, إعراب الألفاظ, to make alfaz properly expressed with correct i'rab, is not a condition for acceptance of dua. So this is a relief for people who have difficulty in reading Arabic du'as. It's not a condition for ijaba. This is not a condition for ithaba, to give sawab. Yes. شرط في تمامیت فضیلته و کمال منزلته و علو مرتبته. Yes, for perfection, it's a condition for perfection. If you want to, get everything from this dua, it's better to say it with proper pronunciation, etc. Otherwise, it's not dua going to be useless. و خرج قول الجواد. تخریج here means تفسیر, تعبیل. و دعاؤه الله من حیث لا یلحن مخرج المدح. He says Imam alayhi salam here wanted to praise people who make correct pronunciation, etc. ذلك أن الدعاء إذا لم يكن ملحونا كان ظاهر الدلالة في معناه. If it is not mistakenly said, it's clear, meaning is very واضح, very obvious. So why we shouldn't try to make it correct? It's always better to use more eloquent words. It's better to use more clear and not ambiguous. Remember in usul fiqh we had mubayyan and mujmal. Mubayyan is zahir and nas. Mujmal is ambiguous. It has different possibilities, which are none of them are so strong to be zahir. Also, especially if a dua is reported from Ahlul Bayt, it's better to recite correctly, because then people may think Ahlul Bayt did mistakes in their du'as. We should show to people that Ahlul Bayt were saying things with proper eloquence. Also, he says, if the text, the du'a, is not properly said, then people who hear and who know the grammar, etc., pronunciation, they will be annoyed by that. They will, be, displeased with that. It's not good. It is said that A'mash And he says, A'mash, in the footnote says, he was a Nahwi, or Ismail ibn Mihran, who was a Nahwi, expert in Nahw. We have some stories that some of these Nahwiyun were very sensitive. I remember one of our teachers, who taught us Ilm al-Balagha, and he passed away, Rahmatullah alayh, Sheikh Hassan Aghay Tehrani. He said that there was a person who was Nahwi, and he was so sensitive that he saw on the gate of one house they have put ayah of the Quran with mistaken i'rab. For example, if I'm not mistaken, was Yadullah fawqa aydihim, they had put Yadullah fawqa aydihim instead of fawqa aydihim, something like this. He told them to correct, they didn't correct, so one night he said, I have to climb the gate and correct this ayah to put proper nahv. Unfortunately, the police of the city were passing by and they thought he's a thief. They took him, and they didn't listen to him, because no one thinks that anyone can climb the gate of people in the night to correct the Arab. They didn't accept. They said, you are a thief. So they had the habit of taking the thieves around the city to show people that this person was a thief, so that no one repeats this. And when they were taking him around the city, someone was announcing, they announced what was the crime. So this person was saying, Hadha jaza'a man saraq. Hadha jaza'a man saraq. Meaning, this is the punishment for whoever commits sarqa, theft. But he should have said, Hadha jaza'u man saraq, because mubtada khabar should be marfu. But he was saying, Hadha jaza'a man saraq. This Nahwi was so upset, not why he is being taken around the city. He was so upset that why this person is making again mistake. So he was saying, Hadha jaza'u man saraq. So he was saying, Hadha jaza'a man saraq. He was saying, jaza'u. So this was the story our teacher said, in the maybe second year of my entrance in Hawza, Rahmatullah. Sometimes these stories remain in mind. May Allah bless his soul. So the people who are really aware get upset. A'mash was a Nahwi. He heard someone is making mistake. He said, Man hadha alladhi yatakallam wa qalbi minhu yata'allam. Who is this person who is speaking and my heart gets pain? So when he was hearing someone making mistake, he was feeling pain in his heart. Or it is said that someone said to one of people, Atabi'u hadha thawb. Do you sell this dress or these clothes? Do you sell it? فقال لا عافاك الله. No, may Allah give you afiyah. But he made mistake. He should have said La wa'afak Allah. Because if you say La afak Allah, means may Allah not give you afiyah. He should have said La wa'afak Allah. You can see the meaning can be quite opposite. If you say La afak Allah, La shafak Allah, for example, means may Allah don't give shifa, not give you shifa, may Allah not give you afiyah. But he meant La, means I don't sell it, and afak Allah. So the person said you should say La wa'afak Allah. Forget about buying the dress. Say it correctly. Or someone said to one of Akaber, one of great people, and maybe who was also old, etc. He said, "La va'atalallahu baqa'ak." This Akaber had asked something. He was able to reply correctly. He said, "La va'abghak Allah." No, may Allah preserve you. That person said, I have not seen any vav in a better position than this. Because if you had said, La atalallahu baqa'ak, if you didn't put vav, people could think it means, may Allah would not prolong your stay in this world. So this vav is very important. So he says, قوله عليه السلام, what Imam Ja'far alayhi salam said, إن الدعاء الملحون لا يسعد إلى الله, means لا يسعد ملحونا إلى, means in a mistaken way, doesn't go up, doesn't rise to Allah. Okay? يشهد عليه الحفظ بما يوجبه اللحن إذا كان مغيرا للمعنى ويجازي عليه كذلك. Then the angels who are responsible, would say, oh, this mistaken meaning was, to be taken seriously, etc. No, he would be rewarded according to قصده ومراده, what he meant. And then he says, what supports this is a hadith in al-Kafi. Imam.Sadiq alayhi salam said that قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. It's very giving hope to non-Arabs. إن الرجل الأعجمي من أمتي ليقرأ القرآن بعجمية فترفعه الملائكة على عربيته. According to this hadith, Rasulullah said that someone who is not Arab from my ummah reads the Quran with Arabic accent or Arabic pronunciation, but the angels will raise this according to Arabiya of Quran. So they take it according to his niyyah. Also, for example, he says there are many things in du'as of Ahlul Bayt that we don't understand, especially like, for example, du'a is-samat. There are terms that we don't understand, but we say it and we mean what Ahlul Bayt meant. This is okay. نسأل عن الله بالأسماء ونطلب منه تلك الأشياء ونحن غير عارفين بالجميع. It's not that we understand everything, but it's not a problem. We mean what was meant by Imam who made this dua to Allah. We mean whatever was in the mind of Imam. Also, we have al-a'malu bin-niyat. A'mal are based on their niyyah or judged according to niyyah. Or niyyatul mu'min khayrun min amalih. Niyyah of mu'min is better than his action. Mu'min always wants better than he can do or offer. وَهَذَا نَصٌّ فِي هَذَا الْبَابِ. He says, for us in this discussion, it's like a very explicit text. لأن الجزاء وقع على النية. Jaza, reward, is based on niyyah. So this person who makes dua is going to benefit from this dua. He gets the reward. وَلَوْ وَقَعَ عَلَى الْعَمَلِ الظَّاهِرِ لَحَلَكَ. But if it was jaza based on what he did apparently, maybe he said something mistaken and then he would be, destroyed. If it means he would be, losing the benefit and maybe even, saying something which is, punishable. Or also Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna sina Bilal indallah shin." Bilal was not able to pronounce shin properly. He was saying like sin. Ashadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashadu an nama. But Rasulullah, he says sin, but Allah accepts shin from him. Of course, some people may say this is for the people who cannot really pronounce. That's, if you go to the Risala about recitation of Salat, they make a difference between someone who recites mistakenly and cannot say it correctly and someone who can. I don't want to go to that discussion. وجاء رجل إلى أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام فقال يا أمير المؤمنين إن بلالا كان يناظر. Bilal was debating, doing munazara with someone. That person was Arab, but not mu'min like Bilal. When Bilal was arguing with him, debating with him, that person was laughing that he's making mistake in Arabic. And it is said that Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam said, what is important for saying correct word is so that your actions can be correct, your action can be pure. Don't just focus on correction in the pronunciation. The main thing is correction of actions and purity. If Bilal is not saying properly, but his a'mal are good, then it's not going to harm him. So, أن اللحن قد يدخل في العمل كما يدخل في اللفظ. So then we understand that amal can be malhoon, lafz also can be malhoon. Amal can be problematic and lafz can be problematic, not just lafz. And when there is lahn, mistake, in action, means there is no purity, this is harmful. But when only lafz is not said correctly, there is no harm and Allah knows. Of course, this is when it is dua, not about salat, which is wajib. But dua, Allah is flexible with that. خب, what about hadith of Imam.Sadiq alayhi salam? A'arabu. I think we stop here because I think already we discussed maybe a few pages. Inshallah, we continue a short discussion about this. But basically, the answer of Ibn Fahd is that is about fiqh and ahkam. Inshallah, we will talk about it. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.